we will read. We will start reading. And Sunti has put up on 119 the ancient Vedic system, a double sense. Next time we will start by explaining Vedism and Vedantism. Okay, we can do that. Okay. There are slokas in the Gita which are likely to be misinterpreted. That's why Srendra is going into what is Vedism and Vedantism. Okay? So, Vedism is the misinterpretation of Gita's slokas, okay, where it says it speaks of karma and yajna. Now, yajna in the Gita is in a very broad sense. It is all the works that you do in life, you have to give to the divine, not for yourself. But in the misinterpretation, they say yajna is the ritual, the pouring of ghee into fire and putting all sorts of wood pieces and leaves and all that into and go on reciting mantras. It is a way they used to do in the earlier days, and if your mantras are done with full consciousness and full attention, then it can have an effect. Okay? So, and what do you pray for? What do you want? You want only enjoyment in life when you are there. You want enjoyments. You want success in business. You want a good family. All the worldly goods. Okay? But after death, you want to be in heaven. Okay? This is the misinterpretation of Vedism in the shlokas. Okay? This is the next time I'll give you the reference to the Vedas. Okay? Sorry, the shlokas in the Gita. I'll just give you the reference. I can tell you even now, chapter 3, verses 13, 14, 15, 16. These are the ones that are being misinterpreted. Okay? So, and in the Vedantic, that means the Gita is interpreting two things. Yajna is, just now we discussed, it is the all action turned towards the divine. Not only the ritual action. All action, whatever you are doing, it is turned to the divine. That is the meaning in the Gita. That is what the meaning of the Gita is in karma. Karma is interpreted wrongly in the Vedism as good morning, Tarika.
Good morning, Gandada.
I was thinking today whether you got a kindergarten.
No, I'll go at 8:30.
Okay, right. Right. So we are discussing Vedism and Vedantism. Okay? Vedism is a wrong interpretation of the shlokas in the Gita. And the wrong interpretation is the karma is taken for the ritual action of the normal yajna, the sacrifice that is made. You go on putting, you build a fire, and the fire is a holy one, and in that you go on putting all sorts of fuel elements, including ghee and including all sorts of herbs and leaves and all, okay? And go on chanting mantras. And what is the aim of that Vedism? The aim is enjoyment in the physical world, success in business, success in family, and all. After death, you have to enjoy in heaven, not in hell. That's the whole purpose. So this is a misinterpretation. According to those essays on the Gita, it's a misinterpretation. The real interpretation of the Gita, those slokas, is you have to take yajna in the sense of all work. Karma is not only the ritual sacrifice, but also all work. Whatever work you are doing it for the divine. And yajna also has to be interpreted exactly in the same way. That means to say, not restricted only to the ritual sacrifice, but all work to be done for the divine. This is the difference between Vedism and Vedantism. Okay, so now we can read the.
Rangada,
Yeah, tell me.
when we say Vedanta, Gita is Vedanta only.
No, I didn't follow.
When we say Vedanta,
Ah,
Gita is a part of Vedanta or Gita is
oh,
equivalent to Vedanta?
no, it is a part of Vedanta because Vedanta is a, as they say, prasthana traya. In Indian philosophy, there are three texts which constitute the Vedanta. Number
Oh.
one is the Upanishads. Okay? There are about 112 Upanishads, and all of them are speaking of the Advaita, the supreme. There is only one reality, and that is Satchidananda. The second is the Gita. Gita is part of the Vedanta. And the third is what they call the Brahma Sutras of Badarayana. They are sutras, very, very small sayings, and they are interpretations of the Upanishads. But that also is a part of the Vedanta philosophy. Sri Aurobindo also is part of the Vedanta, but he gives it a little different twist. All are Vedanta. The philosophy of Ramanuja is Vedanta. The philosophy of Shankara is Vedanta. The philosophy of Madhvacharya is slightly Vedantic, but ultimately slightly small differences are there between all these. Okay? The differences are basically are three. One is Shankara says the individual soul, the Jivatman, the individual soul is essentially the same as the divine soul. That's the Shankara philosophy. That is the real Advaita. And the world is unreal, that is another beside. That's another point. Then Ramanuja. Ramanuja, 400, 500 years earlier, in, in the place called Sri Rangam. It's a town. You know, you have been to Sri Rangam? It's a town
Yeah.
on the bank of the Kaveri. Before
Yeah.
you go to Trichy, you have to cross the bridge. But before that, there is Sri Rangam. And there, he was there in Sri Rangam, Ramanujam. And his philosophy is Vishishta Advaita. Bheda, Bheda. Bheda and Abheda, both are possible. That's his interpretation. In other words, the human soul can merge into the Supreme, but it can also have a relation with the Supreme. That's a Bheda and Abheda. Difference and non-difference, both are applicable. But there are other philosophies which are Madhvacharya, dualism. Madhvacharya, then also I think there are Nimbalbarka, Maharashtra. They say that no, you can have a relation with the divine, but you can't have union with the divine. It's too far up and too far away. So here are the interpretations. And Sri Aurobindo says all of them are right, all these experiences are possible, but they are not exclusive. They are inclusive. I mean, you can have the experience of any of these, but you can also have the experience of the others. Okay, that is Sri Aurobindo. That's why it is integral philosophy. And how
But
to
then,
explain? Tell
but
me.
then Madhvacharya's is that only, no? That both are possible.
Not Madhvacharya, Ramanujam.
Uh,
Ramanujam says both are possible.
sorry. Yeah. So that, how is it different than what Sri Aurobindo says?
Pardon? I didn't follow.
How is it different than what Sri Aurobindo believes?
Oh, Sri Aurobindo believes that all of them are right, but at different planes of consciousness. Yeah, at all of them are right at different planes of consciousness. It depends at which plane of consciousness you are, then that experience you can experience. But if you go to the highest level, above the overmind, you see that all of them are right at different levels. That is Sri Aurobindo's interpretation. Okay? So now we come back to our, according to me, we have to do now page 100 and this elaborate explanation that we did, I think, no? All is verily Brahman. Okay. I start reading from there because there was a lot of, we had to go up and down, so there's a little confusion. So I can start reading from this elaborate explanation of the Yacha that we have just now discussed. Okay, that the how to interpret the Gita. Yacha in the Gita is vast and very all inclusive. So we can start reading from this elaborate explanation. Tarika, you have the text with you?
Yeah.
Then can you read this para?
Yeah,
This
sure.
elaborate explanation. Page 113 of
Yeah.
SABCL.
You know,
Yeah.
you have not finished explaining this whole paragraph
Hmm.
because on page 119, the
Okay.
12th line from below, but the secret symbolism of the ancient Vedic mystics. We had stopped up there.
Acha, okay. Let's,
So before we go to a new para, we have to finish this last part of the paragraph.
how does the para begin? Tell me, Yasmin.
But the
On
secret.
page 119,
Ah.
the para begins with that this is the sense of the passage is
Okay.
made clear.
Okay, I have
But
understood.
from the bottom of
Ah.
that page, if you see the 12th line,
Okay.
but the secret symbolism of the ancient Vedic mystics.
Okay.
We had stopped up there, so you have to start from there.
Okay. But the mystic, but the secret symbolism, no?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm reading and we'll finish that and then this elaborate explanation will. So, but the secret symbolism of the ancient Vedic mystics, exact, curious, poetic, psychological, had been long forgotten by this time, and the secret symbolism, sorry, has been forgotten by this time, and it is now replaced by another large, general, and philosophic in the spirit of Vedanta and a later yoga. Okay, so what's he saying here? He's saying the Vedas, all the languages are all symbolic. Okay, all of them, all the gods and the journey and the fire and the cows, all, everything is symbolic. Okay, so that symbolism, which is very subtle, secret and subtle, has been lost. Okay, he's saying, and that is very, so we're saying it is very exact, curious, poetic, psychological. We'll take up each adjective and describe why is Rabbi saying that. First, he's saying it is exact. In other words, each of the gods, okay, Saraswati, it is exactly, it means inspiration, okay, things like that. Sarama is the intuition and the discrimination. So that's why he's saying exact. And he could make out the exact because he had the experiences. And then he understood, oh, this experience is what they are meaning by Saraswati. This experience is what they mean by Sarama. This experience is what they mean by Agni, okay, Varuna, Shashanka, all these very exact. But that is lost because it is secret. 5,000 years or more naturally gone. Some people say even 10,000 years. Okay. So that is gone. Curious. Curious because some of the symbolisms are very interesting and very illogical. Okay. When I used to read the Vedic hymns to the mystic fire and secret of the Veda with my colleague Raman in archives, some of the images are so funny. They don't make sense, but they will make sense if they are read in the symbol. The symbols are always very you understand exactly, and for that you have to understand the you have to have experience. Unless you have experience, you will not understand what they are saying. So that's what you mean by curious. Then poetic. poetic, he says, the poetry of the Vedas is very high flown. Okay, it's of a very high standard. In fact, as I told you, each anuvak, first of all, they are divided into mandalas, and then they are divided into chapters. There are 10 mandalas and there are chapters, and each chapter there are many, many verses. Okay, and each of these anuvaks, they are addressed to, there are three things on the top of the heading. Okay, one is the God to whom it is addressed, all these hymns. Okay, it may be Agni, it may be Varuna, it may be Saraswati, it may be anything. Okay, it goes on depending. And the meter of the poem, the meter is also mentioned. Okay, you know that there are many, many meters. In English also there are many meters. Iambic pentameter, true key, pyrrhic, all sorts of things are there. It's very, very strange combination of sounds and rhythms. But in Sanskrit also, there are a huge number of rhythms. Okay, there, I
We
forget
call
the name.
it chandas, no? Chanda.
Anushtup is one. I
Chanda.
forget. Huh?
Chandas, no? Chandas.
Yeah, Chanda, correct. That's right. Okay. So there is one which is like a tiger leaping. Oh, I forget the name.
Shardula Vikriditam.
Shardula Vikridam. Correct. It's like a lion, it's like a tiger jumping. That's the
Yeah.
reason. Shardula Vikridam. So there are so many meters. In the Apte dictionary, there are all these meters are listed and given. Okay, so that's why poetic and psychological. Obviously, they refer to symbols which can be experienced psychologically. So that's why he means these four adjectives he's giving exactly because of that. It's a beautiful, these four adjectives sum up the character of the Vedic hymns. Has had long been forgotten by this time, and it is now replaced by another large, general, and philosophical in the spirit of Vedanta. And Vedanta and a later yoga. Okay, the yoga also changed. Okay, different yogas came up. Uh, Jnana yoga, Bhakti yoga, Karma yoga. These are all much later they came up. Okay, so, but Sankhya also is a yoga. Okay, Raj yoga also is a yoga, and the Upanishads, the Upanishads are Vedanta, and Vedanta also has got two meanings. One, they came at the end of the Vedic period in time. That is one interpretation. That is also true also. And the other is that the Vedic hymns are not philosophy. They are only experiences of the rishis. And there are more than 40, 50 rishis. Okay, all the rishis' names also are given. I once compiled a big list of all the rishis. It comes to a huge number. Okay, so all the Vedas are compiled by Veda Vyasa. His other name is Badarayana. Okay, so that's what it meant. So we all forgotten. So now it is Vedas are replaced by the Upanishads. Okay, that's what he's saying, and later yoga. With time, everything changes now. So now I come to the next sentence. The fire of sacrifice, Agni, is no material flame, but Brahmagni, the fire of the Brahman. He explains the symbolism. Okay? Brahmagni, the fire of the Brahman, or it is the Brahman word energy, inner Agni, priest of the sacrifice. The priest of the sacrifice is always a psychic being. Okay? And that is the Agni. It is always described as Agni, okay, the psychic being. And it's interesting, it is described in the Upanishad as flame without smoke. Okay? Agni, Adhumaka. It doesn't have any smoke. It is so.
Yes.
It is so. Okay, so that's what is Brahmagni. That is the interpretation given, not a spirit. The other Vedism is interpreting as real fire, physical fire, and you go on pouring. That's a misinterpretation of the way. That's what Sadhguru is explaining. is the inner Agni, priest of the sacrifice, into which the offering is poured. And the offering also physical. They are pouring ghee, they are pouring all sorts of herbs and all. But the offering should be your work. Any work that you do, any thought that you have, any emotion that you have, all that has to be poured into the sacrifice. And that sacrifice is the offering to the divine. Okay? So totally different interpretation. Okay? And what is that fire? He explained. The fire is self-control, or it's a purified sense action. The sense action is eyesight, hearing, smelling, taste, and touch. These are the senses. But the senses are always evoking desire and attachment, unfortunately. So the pure action of sense control will be just the sight without giving birth to desire, giving birth to attachment. Okay, that is the pure action. That's what he said. Okay, fire is self-control, or it's a purified sense action. The purified sense action is just giving you data. You are seeing something without any emotion at all. But when I see something beautiful, I want it. When I smell something very, very tempting, I want it. When I taste something, I want it. I want to eat it. So attachment is born, desire is born. But when desire is not born in the witness consciousness, that is the real purified sense action. Okay? Or it is the vital energy in that discipline of the control of the vital being through the control of the breath, which is common in to Raj Yoga and Hatha Yoga. Okay? You can purify the vital functionings, the senses, by asanas and by pranayama. Okay? That's why he's mentioning Raj Yoga and Hatha Yoga. Yes, it sounds funny, but it's a physical thing, but it does purify your senses. Pranayama. There are many, many types of pranayamas. But it's a very laborious and slow method. Srivam's method is very simple. Remember and offer. Remember and offer. Everything. That's much, it's purely psychological. The other yogas, there are some physical aids, okay, physical help, like asanas and pranayama. Yeah. But in Srivam's yoga, it's entirely psychological. Okay. Or it's a fire of self-knowledge. So self-knowledge also is a fire. True knowledge burns away wrong ideas. So that also is a fire. Fire also is of so many different types. It can be heat, it can be lightning, it can be electrical energy. All this is fire. Okay, so the flame of the supreme sacrifice. Now I go to the next sentence. The food eaten as the leavings of the sacrifice is, it is explained, the nectar of immortality, Amrita, left over from the offering. So when you are offering to the divine, okay, and most of it is offered, something is always given back or is left. So that you are satisfied with only that. Okay. It can even be interpreted physically. Because suppose a beggar comes to your door, in India it was well known that Atithi Devo Bhava. Okay, so you give him whatever is there, and what is left, that you eat. Okay? Be satisfied with whatever is available. That's the meaning. Okay? The food eaten as the leavings of the sacrifice is, it is explained, the nectar of immortality. Because what is left has been purified by your sacrifice. Your offering to the divine is purifying what is left, and that is nectar. Okay? Left over from the offering. And here we have still something of the old Vedantic symbolism, in which the Soma wine was a physical symbol of the Amrita. So here is again another image, okay, not to be misinterpreted. Dorasima Iyengar, he used to be called Appa. And he used to joke and say, "Oh, these Vedic rishis, they are all drunkards." Because they're always enjoying this Soma wine. But he was only joking, of course. But that again is should not be misinterpreted. When you drink wine, there is a little bit of a kick that you get. it, it gives you a little, uh, as I said, kick. It gives you a kick. So it is used as a symbol. The Soma wine was the physical symbol of the Amrita. Again, symbolism and psychological. The immortalizing delight of the divine ecstasy won by the sacrifice, offered to the gods and drunk by men. By the way, I should mention that there is a very interesting yogic experience. I've not had that, but I've read about it. And it's also many in the ashram also have that. You have heard of Gangadharan? Gangadharan had this experience. Okay. There is a when you reach the higher levels of consciousness, the tongue, it oozes. There is something from the upper cavities, the nasal cavities, some very sweet liquid comes out, and that is the Amrita. It's a physical Amrita, okay? And you experience delight in that. The taste is unbelievable, yes. Okay? That's a real thing. So, the Soma wine was the physical symbol of the Amrita, the immortalizing delight of the divine ecstasy, won by the sacrifice, offered to the gods and drunk by men. The offering itself is whatever working of his energy, physical and psychological, is consecrated by him in action of body, in action of mind, to the gods or God. Okay? The gods are the lower representations of the divine, or God with a G cap, the absolute, the Brahman, the Satchidananda, to the self or to the universal powers, to one's own higher self or to the self in mankind and in all existences. In other words, your offering can be to so many different types. Okay, it can be to Ganesha, it can be to Kartik, it can be to so and so, it can be to Shiva. Okay, it can be to Vishnu, so many different types. It can be offered to the gods or to God, to the self, okay, or the Brahman consciousness, or the universal powers. Universal powers, mind, life, body, they are all universal powers. They are all represented by gods. To one's higher self or to the self in mankind and in all existence. The self in mankind would be the humanitarianism and altruism, okay, and charity, all these things also. After all, they are also some sort of sacrifice. So, the very wide meaning is there in sacrifice, not the narrow meaning of the Vedantism. So now I think it is clear what he is making a distinction between all these. Okay? So, how much time do we have? 28. So we have got time. We can read that this elaborate explanation. Tarika?
Yeah, I will read.
Yeah. Read it before you go to kindergarten.
Yeah.
Okay,
This,
go ahead.
this elaborate explanation of the yajna sets out with a vast and comprehensive definition in which it is declared that the act and energy and materials of the sacrifice, the giver and receiver of the sacrifice, the goal and object of the sacrifice are all the one Brahman. Brahman is the giving, Brahman is the food offering, by Brahman it is offered into the Brahman fire. Brahman is that which is to be attained by Samadhi in Brahman action. This then is the knowledge in which the liberated man has to do works of sacrifice. It is the knowledge declared of the old in the of old in the great Vedantic utterances. I am He. All this verily is the Brahman. Brahman is this self. It is the knowledge of the entire unity. It is the one manifest as the doer and the deed and the object of works, knower and knowledge and the object of knowledge. The universal energy into which the action is poured is the divine. The consecrated energy of the giving is the divine. Whatever is offered is only some form of the divine. The giver of the offering is the divine himself in man. The action, the work, the sacrifice is itself the divine in movement, in activity. The goal to be reached by sacrifice is the divine. For the man who has this knowledge and lives and acts in it, there can be no binding works, no personal and egoistically appropriated action. There is only the divine Purusha acting by the divine Prakriti in his own being, offering everything into the fire of his self conscious cosmic energy, while the knowledge and the possession of his divine existence and consciousness by the soul, unified with him, is the goal of all this God directed movement and activity. To know that and to live and act in this unifying consciousness is to be free.
Now the word unifying consciousness. That is exactly what this phrase is. Everything is the Brahman. That's it. That's why it's the Advaita philosophy. Everything is the Brahman. There is only one ultimate reality, and that is Brahman. That is the Satchidananda. Its nature is Satchidananda. In fact, this is chapter 4, verse 24. Okay? Brahmarpanam Brahma. Havir Brahmagnau. Brahmana Hutam. Brahmaivatena Kantavyam. Brahma Karma Samadhina. So everything is, the Samadhi is, the fire is, the offering is, everything is Brahman. And it is being offered by Brahman into Brahman fire. So this, nothing could be more accurate than the unification of everything. Everything is Brahman. The one becoming the many. Okay? So this is what he's saying basically. It's a very small para. They've got 4 or 5 minutes. We will quickly go through it. It's very simple to understand, nothing much, no difficult. This elaborate explanation of the yajna, because we spend a lot of time on this yajna, sets out with a vast and comprehensive definition in which it is declared that the act and energy and materials of the sacrifice, the giver and the receiver of the sacrifice, the goal and the object of sacrifice are all the one Brahman. Okay? Everything is Brahman. Brahman is the giving, Brahman is the food offering. By Brahman it is offered into the Brahman fire. Brahman is that which is to be attained by Samadhi in Brahman action. Okay? This then is a knowledge in which the liberated man has to do works of sacrifice. There should be no difference. Everything is in the divine. So, in fact, the Upanishads say the one in the many, Brahman is there in the many. He is there in the stone, he is there in the tree, he is there in animals, he is also there in human beings. The one in the many. But there is another experience also, which is the many in the one. The divine contains everything. That is the transcendent. Okay? So the many in the one in the many, and the one becoming the many. The Brahman himself has also become fire. He has become the offering. He has become the things which are being thrown into the fire. Everything is he. Okay? This triple Upanishadic statement. Okay? The one in the many in the one, and the one becoming the many. This is the and also later on he is just explaining that. So we have read that Brahman is the giving and all that we have said. This then is the knowledge in which the liberated man has to do works of sacrifice. It is a knowledge declared of old in the great Vedantic utterings. I am he, so ham asmi. Okay? It is there in the Isha Upanishad. All this verily is the Brahman. Brahman is this self. It is the knowledge of the entire unity. It is the one manifest as the doer and the deed and the object of works, knower and knowledge and object of knowledge. Everything is the Brahman. Sarvam khalu idam Brahman. Yes. And there is another thing also in the Gita, is there Vasudeva Sarvam iti. Vasudeva Sarvam iti. Samahatma Sudurlabha. And when Sremda is saying in jail that everything is Vasudeva, and the Gita is saying such a man is a Mahatma. So what could be more descriptive of Sremda as an avatar? Okay, so Vasudeva Sarvamiti, that was what he experienced. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha, very difficult to get to such a person. so, so it is the knowledge of the end. One manifests the doer, deed, object of works, knower and knowledge, and the object of knowledge. Everything is Brahman. The universal energy into which the action is poured is the divine. The consecrated energy of the giving is the divine. Consecrated when it is given to a god or to somebody else and it is made holy by the offering. Consecration. Okay? Whatever is offered is only some form of the divine. Okay? The giver of the offering is the divine himself in man. The action, the work, the sacrifice is itself the divine in movement, in activity, in the physical world. The goal to be reached by sacrifice is the divine. Okay? So, but the man who has this knowledge and lives in it and acts in it, the lives in it is the ascetic and the Mayavadian and the Buddhist. But acting in it is what Srila is wanting and the Gita also wants. You should be able to act in the physical world, not withdraw from action. There can be no binding works. Works do not attach themselves to a man. They do not bind you down. Okay? Na karma lipyate nare. Again in the Isha Upanishad. No personal and egoistically appropriated action. There is only the divine Purusha acting by the divine Prakriti in his own being, because there is nothing else outside him, offering everything into the fire of his self-conscious cosmic energy, while the knowledge and the possession of his divine existence and consciousness unified with him is a goal of all this God-directed movement. So, this is the interpretation given in the Gita. Not physical interpretation, but psychological interpretation. God-directed movement and activity. To know that and to live and act in this unifying consciousness is to be free. This is Srivnos and Gita's definition of what is true freedom. True freedom is not the Buddhistic freedom or the Mayavadic freedom. The soul is free, but you are not acting in the physical world. You are not free to act in the world. Srivna wants freedom of spirit, but he also wants freedom in action. Okay? There are two chapters in Synthesis of Yoga. The liberation of the spirit and the liberation of the lower nature, the liberation of nature also. That is what Gita and Srivna want. While doing works in the physical world, you should be able to have a consciousness which is free of attachment, ego and desire. That completes the paragraph. So next time, but all even of the yogins have not read. We'll take it up next time. Okay. So now Yasmin, no complaint. We have finished that and we have done the next one also. Okay. So
Okay, au revoir, Ranganath.
au revoir everybody.
Thank you, Ranganath.
Niharika,
Thank you,
Shilpa,
Ranganath.
Yasmin and au revoir. Have a nice one.
Merci beaucoup.
Okay. 113. But